Hi, everybody. I'm going to read a story, and I'll probably read a chapter or two every day. So I'd like you to follow along. I think it's a good book. It's The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. It's an oldie but a goodie. It's a classic. Don't say it's as old as I am because it's not. But it is good. I think you'll like it. I remember reading it a long time ago, before many of you were born, before my staff was born, before this building was here. It's been a while. But anyway, I'm going to read it to you guys, and I'll start at chapter 1 and follow along, and I hope you enjoy it. If you remember, Huckleberry Finn was part of Tom Sawyer's gang back in the day. All right, chapter 1, Huck's New Life. You might have heard of me if you read The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. My name is Huckleberry Finn. I've always lived in the same little town of St. Petersburg, Missouri. My father is the town drunk and isn't around much. So I've spent most of my life fishing on the banks of the Mississippi, sleeping in doorways, and having great adventures with my friend Tom Sawyer. Things were always pretty dull around here until Tom and I discovered hidden treasure. We found $12,000 in gold. Wow, $12,000. It was money that had been buried by robbers. So Judge Thatcher decided it was rightfully ours. Tom and I got $6,000 apiece. Wow, I'm liking this already. The judge put the money in the bank for us, and we each got an allowance of $1 a day. For us in that little town, it was more money than we knew what to do with. Plus, this is a long time ago. Remember, $1 a day wouldn't go very far now, would it? But the money didn't make me happy. At about this time, the widow, Douglas, decided to take me in and raise me as her own son. Wow. She was kind of grateful, I guess, because I helped save her life. But it was rough living in the house all the time. The widow made me wash and dress up and eat all my meals at regular hours. She even took me to church. How dare she? When I couldn't stand it anymore, I ran away and got into my old rags. Then I felt free and happy. But Tom Sawyer hunted me up and said, "We're going to start a club." And I could only be a member of it if I went back to a living with the widow Douglas, with a respectable life. So I went back, and the widow cried over me, calling me a poor lost lamb. She put me in a new suit of clothes that made me feel uncomfortable and sweaty all over again. I had the hardest time getting used to regular meals and polite talk. Then there was Miss Watson, the widow's sister, who had just come to live with her. She took an immediate interest in me and tried to teach me to read and spell. These lessons just made me tired and lonesome. By and by, she would send me to bed with a piece of candle for light. One night after my lesson, I felt so unhappy there, I wished I was dead. It's kind of harsh, huh? I sat in the quiet house and listened for the sound of the wind or the rustle of the trees. After a while, I heard a meow coming from beneath my window. It was Tom's signal. He had called a midnight meeting of our club. I answered his signal with my own meow. Then I slipped into my clothes very quietly and was out the window in a flash. We all met by the clump of bushes, not far from the widow's house. There was me and Tom and Ben Rogers and Tommy Barnes and Joe Harper. We talked for a little while, and then we all took an oath of loyalty to the club. We elected Tom captain and Joe Harper second captain, and then we started home. I climbed up the shed and crept into my window just before daybreak. My new clothes were all greased up and full of clay, and I was dog-tired. That's the end of chapter 1. Kind of a quick one. Chapter 2. Well, I got a good going over in the morning from old Miss Watson because of my clothes. But the widow didn't scold me. She just cleaned off the grease and clay and looked so sorry that I thought I would behave if I could, at least for a little while. After 3 or 4 months had passed, our little club broke up and we all started school again. It was the first time for me, but I could already spell and read and write and do a little arithmetic. At first I hated school, but the more I went, the easier it got. I sort of got used to the widow's ways, but living in a house and sleeping in a bed made me feel a little too civilized. So before the cold weather came up, I slept outside whenever I could slip away. It made the house easier to take. One morning, I happened to drop the salt shaker at breakfast. This was sure to be my bad luck day. I went down to the front yard and climbed over the high board fence. There was an inch of new snow on the ground, and I stopped when I saw some fresh tracks. Whoever made them had come up from the quarry and stood around the fence for a while, then went on around the garden. It was funny he hadn't come in after standing around. I couldn't figure it out. It was very strange somehow. I was about to follow the tracks when something stopped me. The impression made in the snow by the left boot heel was in the shape of a cross. It was formed by 2 big nails embedded crossways into the heel, a good luck sign. I had seen that heel print before. Suddenly, I was up and running down the hill as fast as my legs could carry me. I looked over my shoulders every few seconds, but I didn't see anyone. I reached Judge Thatcher's house in a few minutes. "Why, Huck, you're all out of breath," he said as he opened the door. "Did you come for your interest?" "No, sir," I answered. "Is there some?" "Oh, yes. A half-yearly check came in last night, over $150. Quite a fortune for you. You'd better let me invest it for you, along with your $6,000. "No, sir," I explained breathlessly. "I don't want you to invest it. I want you to take it, the interest and the $6,000 too." The judge, of course, looked surprised. He couldn't figure me out. "Why would you want me to take it, Huck? What can you mean by giving away all your money like this?" "Please don't ask me any more questions, sir. I know what I'm doing, all right?" After a while, I convinced the judge that I meant what I said. He asked me to sign a paper to make it all legal. I did, and left. I'm not sure why he would do that. I hurried back to the widow's. At least there I'd be safe. Once inside, I lit my candle and went up to my room. I shut the door and breathed a big sigh of relief. But then I turned around, and there he was, Pap. I used to be scared of him all the time because he hit me so much when he was drunk and all. But now I took a good look at the old man, and he didn't look that frightening at all. He was almost 50, and he looked it. His hair was long and black and gray, but it was tangled and greasy and hung down into his long, mixed-up whiskers. You could see his eyes shining through like he was behind some vines. There wasn't any color in his face. It was white, but not like another man's white face. It was a white that could make a person sick, a white to make a person's flesh crawl. He was sitting on my bed with one ankle resting on the other knee. The boot on his raised foot was busted, and 2 of his toes stuck through. His clothes were all in rags, and his old black slouch hat with the top caved in was laying on the floor near his feet. We stared at each other. Then Pap looked me up and down. "Fancy clothes you got there," he said. "You think you're a big shot." "Maybe I am, maybe I'm not," I answered. "Don't you give me any of your lip." You put on airs since I've been away. I'll take you down a peg or two before I'm done with you. I hear you can read and write now, too. I bet you think you're better than your own father right now, don't you? Who told you you could meddle with such foolishness, huh? Who told you that? I explained to Pap that the widow wanted me to learn how to read and write and dress and live like a civilized human being. It's that widow out to steal my own son, he cried. But no mind. Where's the money? I told him that I gave it all to the judge, but he didn't believe me. I'll go see the judge, he said angrily, and find out where the money is and get my hands on it one way or another. Then he made me empty my pockets, and he took the dollar the judge had given me. I knew he'd go downtown to buy some whiskey. The next day he was drunk, and he went to see Judge Thatcher. He shouted and threatened that he'd get the law on the judge if he didn't give him the money. When the judge refused, Pap went to court. That's the end of chapter 2. Should I do a chapter 3? Yay, chapter 3. We'll do chapter 3 tomorrow. Have a good day, guys.